Hi everyone, it's Dot, and today we're going to be making a really cool dish. It's perfect for the holidays. We're going to be making a stuffed rib roast. So before we begin and start working on this guy, we're going to head to the stove and start working on our stuffing. I already heated up my pan ahead of time on medium heat. I've already added in my duck fat, which is the fat I'm using. You can use ghee, you can use butter, whatever you'd like. And since I preheated it, I can just go ahead and put the onions right in. Just a little bit of salt, and next up, some cracked pepper. Again, just a touch. All right, my onions are soft. I'm gonna go ahead and add in my mushrooms, and I'm using a combination of portobello and white button mushrooms, but it's completely up to you. If you'd like to just use one or the other, go right ahead. All right, the mushrooms are starting to sweat. They're losing their water, which is what I want. I want to evaporate that out. So I'm gonna go ahead though, while that's happening, and add my garlic. Now, I should say this recipe is a Gordon Ramsay recipe. I've made a few tweaks to it and especially worked on getting it low carb. So this is one of the techniques he suggested. I made sort of a well in here, and now my spinach is going to go in. I'm just going to press, and I'm basically going to be working the spinach in batches. And what you want to do is you want to get that spinach nice and wilted. The spinach is done, and I'm going to take it off heat and not break my glass bowl at the same time. One of the changes I'm making to the recipe is I'm adding about a quarter cup of walnuts. What I'm doing now is just toasting them over a medium-high heat, and I'm gonna do this for about a minute or so. And there's no need for oil here. You're just gonna toast them and stir them on occasion so they don't burn. Walnuts done. All I'm gonna do, definitely a little warm, and you wanna just finely chop them up. I'm using walnut halves. You can certainly use ones that are already chopped, but you still want to chop them finely. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our stuffing. We're just going to roll it out on our cutting board. I'm going to add the walnuts, mix them in. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just chop up our stuffing. Let me spread it out a little bit because you want to cut clean through. This way you're making sure the mushrooms are really nice fine pieces as well as your spinach. I'm going to add an egg, and the egg is going to serve as my binder for the stuffing. And then I'm also adding some fresh herbs. I'm adding thyme and tarragon. Tarragon, if you haven't used it before, I really suggest you do because it goes wonderful with beef. I've learned that recently, and it's absolutely wonderful. Now I'm going to mix everything together. Because you're adding the egg, that's why it's important for you to let your stuffing cool down. You don't want to cook the egg. Now, the rib roast, which is a wonderful cut of meat. I've got 3 ribs here. Now, if you can get this from your butcher, you can certainly ask them to clean this up and do it French style, almost like how lamb chops are, where they'll clean this and you'll see the bones themselves, and the bones will stick up about that far up. What you want to do with this is you want to take your knife and you're basically going to cut right around here, about 2/3 of the way down. I want to leave the meat, the bones on the meat, and I'm going to take my stuffing and I'm going to stuff. I'm going to put it all the way in, and I may run out of space. That's okay. You can just use this in a side dish and put it in the oven for about 15-20 minutes before you're ready to eat. Now, the next thing you want to do, and it's best if you have 2 hands or an extra pair of hands to help you with this, you want to tie this up because you don't want this to open up when you're cooking. All right, guys, I'm back. I tied it, I looped it around twice around the side, and then I do 2 separate strings here. And unfortunately, I don't think you guys got to see all of it simply because I needed help. My husband had to jump in. I needed help of his fingers. And actually, I'm toying with putting another string around here just to hold this part of the stuffing in. The key is you don't want to go over tight because I did that initially, and what started happening was my stuffing started leaking out. That's how you know you've done it too tight. Now, Gordon Ramsay used mustard powder and olive oil, and I'll have the information below if you want to do it that way. I, on the other hand, I'm just going to use some Grey Poupon because it's a lot easier than making my own. And right now, I'm all about easy. So I did a heaping tablespoon, and all I'm going to do is rub it on the meat. Roast is ready to go in the oven. It's going to go in at 450 for 15 minutes. You just want to get it nice and brown all over. Then you're going to drop the heat to 350, and then you're going to continue to cook your roast for about 15 minutes for every pound. That's important. That'll get you to rare. Now, if you want a medium rare, add another 30 minutes to that. And then if you want it medium well, just add more time as you go. My husband loves Tiger Dill Sauce on all of his steaks. Whenever he's at the Outback, that's what he wants. So I'm gonna make a creamy horseradish dressing for our steaks and rib roast. So this will last us for about 2 weeks. I already have heavy cream in here, and I'm gonna beat it until it thickens. However, I don't want whipped cream thick, just slightly thickened, less than whipped cream. Next, horseradish, prepared horseradish, sour cream. I'm using freeze-dried chives. If I used fresh chives, which you certainly can use, it wouldn't last as long as it's going to last in the fridge. I'm going to add just a pinch of pepper and a pinch of kosher salt, lemon juice, from half of a lemon, and something I'm really excited about adding, which I don't know if Outback uses this in their Tiger Dill sauce, but it is Frank's hot sauce, which I love. It's the original. I'm going to add just a couple of dashes. A little bit more. And now I'm going to mix everything together. Oh, it smells wonderful. Let's take a little taste. Now this isn't going to give me the true flavor, but it'll give me an idea if I need to add a little bit more salt and pepper. A little more salt and a little more pepper. Mix that up. Then I'm going to put it in the fridge for at least an hour because all of the flavors, especially that horseradish, needs to work in with all the dairy that I have in here. I am so hungry right now because we started late in making this roast, but hey, we're gonna get going. I started cutting, as you can see evidence from my knife that I started cutting, and my husband stopped me because he said, "You wanna see me cut the roast?" And he is right, you do. I was just hungry, so I wanted to nibble. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the bones off. So I'm gonna follow the cut, get my arm out of here so you can see it. There we go. There's a little bit of fat on here. My husband loves those, so he can do what he wants with them because he loves ribs. But this is almost my first piece in a way, right there. And we went to medium with our cut. So we have still a nice little pink in here, which is great. Looks really tender. It smells great. So I'm assuming it's going to be awesome. Let's try a little bit of the stuffing. I took this out first after I cut the twine off of the roast. This is really good. It's really tasty. The only crunch comes in, and it's a very soft crunch, if that makes sense, from the walnuts, because we don't have bread in here. That's why I sort of added them in there, added a little bit of nut, but it also added some crunch to it because everything else is going to be soft when you saute it and cook it within a roast. Think about it this way. You don't have to have bread in your stuffing. There's a lot of different ways to make stuffing. So there you go. Let's go ahead. I'm going to try a bit of the roast. Now, very tender when I cut it. Awesome. This is like the best roast you could possibly have. It's just so juicy with the fat, and just, you don't need any sauce with it. You don't need really anything with it. However, I did make the horseradish sauce to go with it. So, oh gosh, I have to have another piece of meat, and I got to test the sauce to go with it to see if it really does go with it. Oh, okay. I'll do a small piece. If you insist, I'll go ahead, and I'm just going to dip it in. Okay, this is really good. This is really awesome. Screw you, Outback. This is better than your stuff that I make. And I will say this, my husband, when I was making it, and just before it went into the fridge, he decided to grab a taste and said this was the best sauce he ever had, best Tiger Dill sauce. It was better than Tiger Dill that he gets at the Outback. And he told me I had to make it every week for him. Now, the batch I make is a huge batch. This is it. It's a big batch. And he insists this won't even last a week. He's jonesing for this, but nonetheless, it tastes great. It adds a nice little kick to the roast, but the roast by itself is also awesome because it's very tender. Definitely want you to try it. And I hope you enjoy the video. Hit like if you do, subscribe if you haven't already, share with your friends, and until next time, I'll see ya.